Yeah, I think it's kind of fine.
All right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Today we are having Professor Hakeem Owolabi. He works at the University uh, of Bolton here. So this is also is very good area. He will do other talks. So we have 2 hours to tell you areas of collaboration that is trying to bring in also to WTO. This program we've had two companies, Nimos, K, and IBM, in it, and then they're all very eager to see how far we can go on in making sure that WTO have their own personal system. I've spoken with them personally, and that is my goal. Now, it's not just the training, get to know it. We will now begin to look at each of the departments, and Professor Kim is very keen to make that happen. He has extensive experience in digital supply chain and all of them. So, you're welcome, Professor Kim.
Thank you very much, Professor Iwendi. I'm very pleased to be here. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be with you on the lecture 8 of the WTO and University of Bolton's modular program on AI and supply chains. Today's lecture will be focusing on sustainability and resilience and supply chains, and particularly looking at the applications of digital technologies like AI, in driving a greener and much more resilient supply chains. My name is Hakeem Owolabi. I'm a professor in business and innovation, and I also teach innovation and entrepreneurship at the Greater Manchester Business School in the University of Bolton. I also happen to be the director of the Center for Digital Innovation and Responsible Adoption at the Business School. A little bit of my academic background. I have a background in strategic project management from the University of West of England, Bristol, where I backed my doctorate degree. And my research interest covers domains like ethical and sustainable innovation, people-centered digital transformation, end-user adoption, and the impact of digital technologies on people, businesses, and the society at large. I have led multiple collaborative R&D projects, working with some of the UK large firms and small and medium-scale businesses, helping them to develop innovative solutions to address operational and growth challenges. I'm going to be running through the lectures, and the content of my lecture is going to focus on sustainability and resilience in supply chains. And I'm also going to be touching on artificial intelligence and the roles of AI in improving sustainability and resilience in supply chain. I'm going to also use some use cases to demonstrate how AI has been applied within supply chain globally. And I'm also going to be wrapping up the presentation, touching on the common challenges and best practices in, in deploying digital supply chains. So I think the question that we need to kick off with today is, what is sustainable supply chain? What makes a supply chain sustainable? Why should companies and supply chains care about sustainability? No doubt, supply chains has become a crucial cornerstone for numerous, global economies and industries and enterprises. The entire economies of many nations depend so much on the supply chain. So it's right to say that supply chain contribute massively to global and national economic growth. But obviously, the supply chain has also been noted by a lot of scholars, public bodies, as having significant impact on, on the environment and the climate generally.
Professor Kim, sorry, is it my computer or the volume of the voice? Is it low? Is somebody noticing that too?
It's fine on my side.
It's fine on your side. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
here too.
increase your
Yes.
volume. Yes. Okay.
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 All right. Thank you very much. Am I better now? Can you hear me better now?
It's fine. It's okay.
It's fine now. Okay. So supply chain activities globally is increasing and is taking a very negative toll on the planet and its people. So according to the Bolton Consulting Group, the Bolton Consortium Group in 2021, they gave a report indicating that the global supply chain itself contributes about 25 to 60% of global carbon emission. So activities of businesses and freights, logistics are negatively impacting on the environment. About 90% of environmental impacts that organizations have in terms of their carbon footprint actually emerge from their supply chains. And supply chains are believed to contribute about 11.4 times more CO2 emissions on average, more than households. And international trade also has significant contribution. About 70% of international trade happen through global supply chain networks. And these supply chains cuts across many continents. So it is becoming a much more existential issue for not only governments and policymakers, but also businesses to act responsibly. And industry regulators and multinational firms like WTO have a very significant role to play in this context. Beyond that, global supply chain is also, going through a lot of stress lately over the last 1 or 2 decades. Supply chain disruptions actually, as a matter of fact, contribute significantly to the economic activities and the impact on the environment. Supply chain disruptions, according to research done in King's College London, climate disruption itself can have as much as 25 billion or 25 trillion net loss for, within the mid-century. So in terms of supply chain disruptions, a lot of stressors are happening in the environment where that has significant impact on global supply chains and domestic supply chains. The geopolitical tensions, like the one in Russia, Ukraine, extreme weather events, environmental restrictions, regulatory uncertainty, cyber attacks, economic fluctuations, all these have significant impact on the supply chain and brings a lot of stress to the supply chains. So the resilience of the supply chain is also a very, very important issue, particularly within the trading environment. So because of this, one of the most important tools that most scholars have been talking about that will have a significant and game-changing role to play in improving sustainability and resilience in supply chains is artificial intelligence. AI, is a general term for applications that, simulate human intelligence and perform complex tasks. And its subfields varies from robotics, natural language processing, machine learning, computer vision, expert systems, right? And beyond that, now we are now having generative AI, the large language models. So businesses have started to use AI to manage and optimize supply chain activities, things like monitoring product quality, balancing inventory levels, identifying fuel efficient delivery routes, and more are being, achieved using artificial intelligence. So one key thing that we need to note in AI is that artificial intelligence is data driven. An AI solution is as good as the quality and representativeness of the data. So AI is not just a model-driven tool, it's also a data-driven tool. That's why you have some academic institutions already setting up, centers for data-centric AI, like the Stanford Center for Data-Centric AI. So artificial intelligence is a very, very important digital tool that underpins most digital technological solutions like the blockchain. So because it's data driven, there are about 6 disruptive models that are fueling the data competition within the competitive business environment. One of it is radical personalization, the idea that we need to tailor our, what we know and our services and products as close as possible to the desires and preferences of customers is becoming, an important thing that is driving a lot of organizations trying to understand customers better, trying to understand people better, trying to understand environment better, and therefore able to use data to tailor their offerings and tailor solutions to the preferences and desires of end users. Also, the fact that AI enables ability to leverage data from orthogonal sources, data from disparate sources, structured and unstructured, semi-structured, sources of data. And AI is able to leverage all this data collectively in order to make an enhanced, informed decision. So businesses and organizations are looking to make much more evidence-based, data-driven decision. All these, they are making artificial intelligence to become much more relevant within the society and within the business landscape. The ability to also scale, our solutions, leveraging much more exponential growth of data, real-time matching of data to target solutions. This is also driving, the application and the adoption of artificial intelligence in most spheres. Massive data integration, ability to, leverage data from multiple sources and coming from different sources, digital data, signal data. Some of these data, AI has enabled the ability to leverage all of them in order to deliver what we call a data-driven discovery and to power innovation. So some of the areas where AI is being used in, promoting greener supply chain at the moment, it varies across different solutions that is being offered within the industries and within the global supply chain. So, for instance, artificial intelligence is being used effectively by organizations for inventory management, trying to predict product demand using historical data, customers' data, market trends, storage facilities, and using external factors, like, traffic and, disruption to road traffic, disruption, road closure, all this kind of information are being used to be able to determine what level of inventory can an organization or an enterprise stock up in order to continuously meet demand. Efficient logistics, it is no doubt that the logistics industry rely a lot in efficient delivery, free and easy movement of vehicles, and delivery of goods and services, helping organizations to scale up and to rapidly, increase their growth and their reach to the customers. So being able to take products and items to the end user at the right time has meant that many organizations always do next day delivery, on time delivery, but having their vehicles being able to move easily and, within time and in a cost-effective manner means that optimizing traffic routes, transport and logistics mode, using real-time traffic data, weather data, task and schedule data, all these are enabling efficient logistics, across the business landscape. Energy reduction, a lot of research has been done in terms of what is the economic impact of adopting sustainability. So a lot of scholars like Sakis, even Michael Porter, creating shared value, they've made a case that when organizations combine the economic and environmental objectives of the organization together, there's an opportunity to make significant profitability targets, right? So achieving sustainability also has a way of helping you to reduce not only your resource consumption, but you're also able to have savings in terms of efficient use of resources, and being able to optimize energy is one of the areas where AI is being used, using it to track energy consumption level, predicting usage pattern across seasons using IoT feeds, life cycle analysis of products and materials is also being enabled by data-driven AI solutions. Uh, Artificial intelligence is also being used for certifications and standards, particularly being combined with blockchain technology to track and verify origin of raw materials and ensure that suppliers follow sustainable sourcing practices. Real-time monitoring, which is very, very an important AI application. So what are the factors that are massively driving the adoption of AI and data analytics across global supply chains? So one of it is the complexity of the environment. The business environment, the trade environment is becoming increasingly complex. There's a lot of uncertainties in terms of flooding, changing regulations, wars, and famine, flooding, and some of these natural disasters. They are causing uncertainty in the environment. It's making the global business and trade environment becoming very, very unpredictable. Global events like COVID-19, pandemics, and all these global events also have massive implications in causing disruptions within the business environment, and obviously with subsequent impact on the global supply chain. The fact that environmental and trade regulations are rapidly changing as well across the globe. There's a wave of nationalism and protectionism in trade that is fueling some of these environmental and trade regulations. Some of it are also based on demands from from the populace. Countries are putting in place laws that are restricting trade in order to encourage domestic growth. And all these are having significant impact on the business environment. But that said, there is also a massive increase in cross-border trades. So as much protectionism that is happening, many countries are also opening up their borders to be able to trade and export and also import smoothly and in an itch-free manner. All these are making the business and trade environment very, very complex. Yes, and the drive to understand and be able to make demands in the midst of complexity and uncertainty means that a data-driven solution, a data-driven approach has become highly desirable. Looking at it from the people perspective, in terms of predicting customers' taste and preferences is also becoming increasingly very difficult, because of the way trends happen. One trend, something that is trending right now, may get out of trend or go out of trend in the next 1 or 2 months, because customers are very, very, they consume a lot of information on the internet now. So trends change easily. So organizations and enterprises that are leveraging supply chains need to be able to respond to the changes in customers' desires and taste and preferences, and therefore meaning the ability to understand people's preferences becomes very important. So using artificial intelligence. Increase in demand for quality and variety is also another thing. People's demand for quality, customers' demand for quality, end users' demand for quality is rapidly increasing. The world has become a global village, and information is at the tip of everyone's finger. So people are able to judge quality based on their expectations and some of the experiences that others have had. For instance, if you look at if people are going to buy a product or a service online, they are more likely to go and check reviews. So people are going to go and check reviews, and therefore organizations are using sentiment analysis to get some customers' feedback, to understand what customers think in terms of quality service and quality products. The demand for next day delivery, with the rise of e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Alibaba, eBay, and all these multi-sided platforms, they are fueling next day delivery. So people's desires in terms of wanting to have the products that they order online to be delivered quickly is also putting a lot of pressure on enterprises and fueling the push and pull towards the adoption of technology like AI. The rise of internet has also made information at just a click away from most customers. Right? So people can easily go online and make orders and expect the delivery in just a couple of days. And lastly, in terms of the people drive, the motivating factors or the driving factors from the people side is the fact that many enterprises have inadvertently become participants in the international trading environment. So once organizations have their platforms online, customers can come from all over the world. So you have customers in Africa ordering products from China, from Turkey, from Indonesia, from Bangladesh. So this ability to serve customer across all the nooks and corners of the world has also made understanding such demand pattern and being able to respond and meet such demand pattern is also fueling the desire and the adoption of a much more informed, data-driven solution. From the technology side, technology, not just artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoT, enterprise solution, expert system, many of these innovative technologies are delivering game-changing solutions that are fast-tracking real-time information. Organizations are now able to diagnose why a product has not been ordered, why a revenue has not been coming from a particular service. So real-time information is being enabled by the use of artificial intelligence and IoT. Prediction and early intervention has also been enabled by technology. Scenario modeling through artificial intelligence and other associated technologies. Organizations and enterprises can now model scenarios through what-if scenarios using data to be able to predict what will be the next course of action or the likely course of action when all other historical data are constant. So there's also a rapid adoption of automation within the supply chain. So most organizations are automating some of the human, some of the activities and operations that are very, very labor driven. They are being automated to be able to deliver faster processes. The desire for evidence-based decision making is also very important. End user intimacy and personalization. Through AI, we can now understand what the customer is thinking in the next 2 to 3 days, based on what the customer is putting on social media. There is what we now call social innovation. Social innovation is playing a significant role in the e-commerce sector, where the social media digital trail of customer is being used to predict the customer's desires, right? And above all, organizations' desire to achieve their bottom line is also fueling, the drive towards the adoption of technologies like artificial intelligence. If you don't mind, I want to get the views of participants on how AI may be able to help in their operations. If we all have mobile phones, this is just one poll. This is just one poll. It's an open-ended poll where you're just able to post what you think. And I wouldn't mind if you're able to use your mobile phone to quickly scan the Mentimeter. Apologies, I have to open my Mentimeter here.
We don't see the the code anymore.
Okay.
You're not sharing your screen anymore.
It's not.
Can you
it's
share
not,
the
okay.
screen again? Yes.
I will share the screen again. Sorry. Yeah, this is it. So if you can use your mobile phone to scan the QR code.
Sorry, if I may ask, what's the purpose of this? I didn't quite get the what you tried to achieve by this particular exercise.
So what I'm trying to achieve by this exercise is to try and understand how AI, in what area of your role at WTO do you believe AI will be most helpful for you? That's what the survey is about. It's just your own.
Okay,
view.
thanks.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. We only have 2 responses. Okay, we have 4. Can we have more? Can we have more responses? I believe we are about 20 in. Yeah.
Could you please show the QR code
Could you
again?
show the QR code again, please?
Okay, let me just show the QR code from here then. Yeah. Okay. So we have 9 responses on technical assistance, presentation of information, helping with speed of work, to understand the role of AI in the dynamics of global trade, for research, drafting and reviewing, for designing, brainstorming, research and benchmarking, data analysis, retrieving data, and data analysis, making notes. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on how you think. Okay, we still have more information here. For instance, by providing better translation and more searchable documents to better serve members, helping fix bug faster to get idea where the issue is coming from. As we provide support to least developed countries addressing their supply side constraints, AI may help to identify where. Brilliant. Research on usability and user review. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your feedback on this. So I want to carry on with the presentation, and now I want to go into AI analytical techniques and use cases. And before I do that, I know many of us are quite familiar with big data analytics or data analytics generally, but just to remind us what analytics involves and what type of analytics can be performed from a data-driven point of view. So data analytics is about understanding patterns in data. It's about analyzing data and understanding what the implication of the data that we have might mean and whether we can extract value from data. And one of the most common analytical techniques is what we call a descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics is about understanding what has happened through the data. It's an historical way of looking at the data. It helps you to, to make sense of what has already happened. For instance, we want to look at, okay, how many flights have been delayed or this month compared to last month. So descriptive analytics will be able to help you do that. As simple as the use of Excel, and using your bar charts can be a form of descriptive analytical tool or technique. So sometimes we might be interested in looking at, what is our revenue loss in the last 2 months. Being able to compare this month with last month is a form of descriptive analytics. Another analytical technique that can be data-driven and implemented using AI is diagnostics analytics. Diagnostic analytics is when we are interested to understand why something happened. So we're drilling down beyond the historical data. For instance, how many flights got delayed? Under diagnostic analytics, we might be interested to know why those flights got delayed. And data can help provide such important insights. Looking at revenue loss, if we suddenly realize we're losing revenue or we're having a particular problem, a diagnostic type of analytics will be, trying to help us understand why did we lose so much money. So that's a diagnostic analytics. AI and data analytics can also facilitate what I call predictive analytics, which is where many organizations are trying to extract value, from data. Predictive analytics will be helping us to predict what will happen if all other factors are constant. If the history says that when this happened, this will happen. If we alter a particular variable in all the predictors or parameters, what will happen? So predictive analytics helps to facilitate what if scenarios. So by altering various parameters and optimizing parameters, we can be able to predict future value. For instance, we want to predict what country might be experiencing drought and what impact that might have on trade. A predictive analytics might help us to be able to accurately do that. Prescriptive analytics is also very possible using AI tools, and this is going to focus on what is the best form of action that should be taken when the particular what if scenario happens. So this is more what we call an optimization, right? Optimization problem and optimization technique. So it prescribes the best course of action, to respond to our what if scenario prediction. So what are the popular or very common AI algorithms and analytical operations that we can use? I apologize for those who probably are not that particularly familiar with technical aspects of artificial intelligence and machine learning. But let me just quickly run through some of the techniques that AI can enable. Classification is one of the most popular problem and operation in AI. And this is a problem that you would come across a lot in international trade environment. Classification is commonly used when you're trying to predict an outcome that is binary in nature, or sometimes it can be a multi-class classification. Binary is to predict what an outcome will happen, either A or B, or yes or no, or will it rain or will it not rain? Are we going to be successful or we're not going to be successful? So this particular machine learning problem technique will help us to look at data and segregate data based on the strength of association of data. So such as trying to get response or no response Are we predicting high, risk? Is it going to be medium risk? Is it going to be low risk? So which customer is likely to buy a particular product? Which customer is likely to, or which member state is likely to fall into an infraction of the international trade regulations based on historical trends and associated information that we are using to do that prediction, and algorithms that can help us do this. One of it is logistic regression, support vector machine, naive-based decision tree will be very, very handy in trying to help us use classification to solve our problem. Another problem is a regression problem. Anytime we are trying to predict an outcome that is not fixed in nature, so it's not a yes or no solution. For instance, how much are we going to spend on a particular set of activities next year? Or how much will, or what will be the value of a particular contract by so time. That's when we use regression problems. So regression algorithms like multiple regression, support vector machine, random forest can be very, very good at helping us do regression. So one of the common examples of use cases within the business environment is when you're predicting life value of a customer, when you're predicting the future value of a house, when you're predicting, future yield, future rates, what is going to be the probability that, what's going to be the amount of risk that we might encounter, if all other historical variables are remaining the same. So another one is clustering. So clustering is about segregating data. So AI models can help us cluster our data. Oftentimes we get situations where we want to classify data based on what is unique about the various groupings within the data. For instance, we want to classify countries based on what is common among them. Countries that are experiencing, supply chain problems, countries that are experiencing high country risk situation, countries that are going through natural disasters, countries where trade infraction has been very, very much on the eye lately, as compared to those where trade infractions has not been, very high. So this clustering will help us to be able to group data based on, what is the strength of association, that common thing that is, that is bringing all of them together. So common example is when we're trying to segment our customer, or we're trying to segment a particular base, population base. Another analytical technique that we can, perform using AI and machine learning is attribute importance. So among all the factors that are impacting on a particular outcome, for instance, trade infraction or trade law infraction, whatever we want to call it, which of the factors are the most important? So AI and data-driven techniques like machine learning can help us rank data and attribute weight to the data based on the strength of the attributes. So attributes that we can use for predicting things will be, for instance, maybe how many times have you fall foul of trade laws before? How many trades have you done in recent times? How many of it have you, honored? And are you going through country-related factors that can likely lead to trade infractions or likely predispose you to trade infractions? Those factors will then be ranked based on the strength of each factor. Now, particularly looking at historical data. So algorithms like minimum description lengths can help you to do data engineering and attribute extraction. So anomaly detection is also another analytical technique that we can, or analytical operation that we can perform on data. So it identifies unusual and suspicious cases based on, deviation from the norm. This is very much commonly used in, in terms of trying to identify fraud detection, tax compliance, anomaly detection is very, very important. And we want to be able to know who is going to, or whether contract has been breached, or whether contract has been complied with. And we want to be able to see what is different from the norm, in terms of the usual way of doing things and why this particular transaction is different. It provides triggers for us to intervene and, signpost us to something that might be going on underneath. So I want to particularly touch on use cases of artificial intelligence within supply chains. So one of the most important use case of artificial intelligence in supply chains is route optimization. So route optimization, why is route optimization very important for supply chains? It's because most organizations are now keyed into just-in-time delivery, next-day delivery, and the rise of e-commerce has fueled route optimization a lot. Not only that, organizations within logistics and freight, sector need route optimization. Organizations that are in running taxis, city level taxis, interstate taxis, they need route optimization because this has a significant impact on their ability to reduce fuel consumption, ability to meet customers' demand, and meet service level agreements. So there are multiple techniques for optimizing routes. One of those techniques is to use genetic algorithms, optimization. But the most popular one that has recently been tested by researchers from University of Birmingham is the ant colony optimization. The ant colony optimization is an optimization model that tries to mimic how ants learn based on their experiences and pass the information down to their colleagues, and they encode this information. So ant colony optimization, this research showed that has an opportunity to reduce fleet emissions by 50%. What are the data that researchers are often interested in when they are doing route optimization? For instance, they want to know the traffic pattern. What time is traffic always high? What time is traffic always low? What time are certain large vehicles usually out? What is the traffic situation at that time? Location based on traffic as well. What is the traffic situation at a particular location? Real-time fleet telematics, telematics from the vehicle, data that is being transmitted by the vehicle to the back end can provide useful insights on optimization. Weather conditions, because fleets always have a lot of problems during, rainfall. There could be flooding, there could be flash flooding, there could be vehicles stuck in the flood. So weather condition provides another useful data for predicting the most optimal route for fleets or vehicle to use. Fuel efficiency data would also provide a useful information. So you can optimize based on the routes that would deliver the most fuel efficient travel journey. So if you're optimizing only for fuel efficiency, you can use that as your target, outcome. Say, come up with the route that will give us the least fuel consumption. So optimization problem is going to combine a lot of, variables in order to come up with the most optimal solution that delivers, the target value that you're looking for. So, and what are the benefits from route optimization in the supply chain? It helps you to avoid congestion, it minimizes disruption to logistics, And it can also help you predict emission per mile. So using the carbon footprints of the fleets, you can know which route will deliver the least emission in terms of the impact of your fleet on the environment and CO2 emissions. An organization that has used, route optimization a lot is DHL. DHL has an AI-powered climate adaptive route optimization. So, and they consider factors like, the characteristics of the vehicle. Is the vehicle electric, or the vehicle is diesel, or the vehicle is petrol run? What is the size of the vehicle? What is the payload restriction of the vehicle? That is, what is the rate? The weight of the vehicle, and whether the weight is the allowed weight. And then you can optimize with cost, the cost of fueling, fleet utilization, how often is the fleet always going out, daytime dependent, what time of the day is the most traffic friendly, road specific travel time. Certain roads are also very known for certain or different traffic levels. So you can use all the data from fleets and daytime road situation, weather situation, vehicle types, and all these things to identify what is the most optimal route and what is the most optimal time for your fleet to go out that will have the least impact on the environment. It will optimize the transport route. It will minimize travel hours, have impact on the mental health and the mental well-being and the well-being of drivers as well, improve their productivity and help, optimize your planning. Another application of artificial intelligence in supply chain is, resource optimization. Resource optimization is about combining multiple resources and trying to identify what is the best combination of resources that will deliver you the unique value or the most desired results. So AI techniques for resource optimization, applications could be demand forecasting. How do you predict demand? Waste reduction, efficient inventory management. All these are very, very important for logistics and supply chain firms. So these models will analyze historical sales, materials data, market trends, weather pattern, and other external factors to predict future demand accurately. If it is waste reduction, they can use data from waste disposal from particular product or item to be able to predict the amount of waste that can be generated from a particular product or resource. So that's why we are now having the rise of waste efficient designs. Waste efficient designs is to factor in waste, the predicted amount of waste that can come out from a particular output or material or product, and be able to design out those waste. AI can help facilitate this, and a lot of machine learning models have been developed to be able to do this, like time series analysis, gradient boosting machines, and what have you. So in terms of supply chain resilience, artificial intelligence and data-driven solution is also very, very important in improving resilience, reducing disruptions within supply chains. DHL is also one of the notable firms, logistics and delivery organization that has networks all over the world. So DHL always have a responsibility to understand the environment where they are shipping their items to. They have to consider natural disaster. So they have to consider geopolitical risk assessment, like the country risk, the risk that products may not get to their destination. All these are some of the things that DHL always have to factor in. And as a result of that, they've developed a dashboard that helps them to, for supply chain disruption prediction. supply chain disruption prediction will leverage data from the supply chain and also news information. So they are going to rely on news information to be able to understand what the environments that they are shipping products or items or goods to will be able to look like. So they are also able to use this data that they have collected over the years to predict pandemic. So they have signs that are associated with the rise of pandemic in certain environments, and they are able to, take precautions. And this solution has helped them to improve and reduce the disruptions to their supply chains. American Airlines once had a problem about, meeting their revenue, their bottom line. And when diagnostics analytics was done, it was realized that a lot of people book in to ship cargo, but they don't turn up on the day when or as at when due. And as a result, many people have been booked in to be able to deliver cargo, but they don't show up. So they have a problem of predicting show or no show cargo. So this is very important for their bottom line and their efficient operation. It not only affects how many staffs has to be on ground for the shift to make sure that cargoes are loaded onto the planes. It also has an impact on the income and the resource use. For instance, the hourly shift of workers that are going to be on ground. And as a result of that, they have developed an AI solution powered by NVIDIA GPU accelerated machine learning. And they are using that solution to predict show or no show. So this is about whether a cargo that has booked in to be shipped to, for instance, America, is going to turn up or is going to call in at the last minute that, oh, I'm afraid our cargo will not be able to leave today. So being able to predict show or no show arrivals has helped them to properly plan, reduce their resources in terms of planning for, for cargo loading and all that. And they've been able to use historical cargo arrival data, customers' history of previous no-show, percentage of booking to no-shows, day and time of the week to cargo departure, number of bookings, fully paid bookings, whether bookings are fully paid for or they are partially paid for. Obviously, a fully paid booking is likely to show. Partially paid booking has a potential that it might not show. It's 50-50 chance. And then percentage of booking to no show, historically, we can say, oh, always, most of the time, 60% of our, or maybe 40% of our cargoes often have no show. And as a result of that, we are going to plan to be able to cater for a 60% or 70% show of cargo. So, and logistics regression, support vector machine, decision trees, and other machine learning models are very good at helping to classify cargoes that will show and cargoes that will not show. So during COVID-19, Nike had a problem. And the problem was that Nike had a large storage of their products in stores all over the world. And when COVID-19 happened, one of the biggest concerns that they had was they were not prepared, they were not ready to transition to e-commerce business. So a significant part of their business model is about maintaining physical stores and just having some online presence. So this puts the management, in a lot of difficult circumstances, and they had to think through what they needed to do. And the power of artificial intelligence was brought to bear. So Nike was able to use AI to predict disruptions, right? So it was able to use autonomous and real-time identification and tracking of its product apparel. Nike quickly developed a tag that is embedded in most of their products, and they are able to track where the product is globally through RFID, radio frequency identification chips. So, and they were able to use that solution to track about 1 billion units. They were able to read those RFIDs to 99.9 readability. Nike was also able to implement what we call a data-driven virtual supply chain platform. So through the RFID tags, they were able to have visibility of all their products all over the world. So they know what particular shoe size is in Indonesia and what type of footwear that is. This helps them to facilitate, data acquisition through the RFIDs. And the data coming from the RFID were used to power their AI predictions. And it also helped them to be able to predict their demand. So obviously, through the RFID tracking, they are able to know what product is still currently in stock and what product is already sold. What is the level of sale for a particular type of product? That was also aided through the RFID tracking and demand prediction. They were able to know what particular product the customers are demanding for. So based on how much sold and how much do we still have in stock, they were able to know their profits at real time across the country. And the impact analysis of that solution for them identified that it lowered their cost of inventory holding and transportation of products, and it helps them to know what product is or what product is at a particular location, and it helps them to be able to move products to the right places where they are needed or where the demand is high. It also reduced their product time to customer because they know where each product is. They are able to call product from wherever they are to be able to meet the demand of the customer that needs such products using that tracking system. And through this means, Nike was able to sell about 35%, or about 12.4 billion units. So $12.4 billion worth of Nike branded products online, So Nike came out of the pandemic in a much more better fashion because they were able to quickly switch to online e-commerce platforms, and they were able to use RFID tags that is, supported at the back end by artificial intelligence, machine learning, helping demand prediction, helping real-time tracking and monitoring of products. They were able to use it to come out much more resilient and better performed out of the pandemic. So I want to quickly touch on what are the common tools that are out there, very popular within the supply chain, that are helping to, address the problem of disruption. Obviously, being able to have visibility across your supply chain is very important. And being able to know what product is at a particular location, when a particular product is going to be delivered, whether a particular product has been sold or is still in stock is very key. And real-time monitoring has aided this. So the use of RFID has been on the rise within the global supply chains. There's a lot of embedded chips in many solutions now where products are being tracked at real time. The use of IoT sensors is also very much prevalent. So, and these solutions not only can provide adaptive planning, they can also help you real time and help you with flexible decision making. Barcode scanning has also gained a lot of prominence. So most products now have barcode whereby you can scan to be able to know what particular item that is, how much is the cost of the item. Many of us who go into the store to buy things, once the product is taken to the counter, what you see the checkout guys doing is to scan the barcode. They scan the barcode to be able to get the data or the details of the particular product. And that real-time scanning provides real-time data for those who are in the planning section to be able to know how many items have been scanned out, meaning sold already, and whether we need to stock up and maintain, optimum stock level. The use of API, is also very much on the rise. Algorithmic programming interface, the use of API has also become very, very prevalent. You see organizations connecting their platform to other platforms, other data sourcing platforms. This use of API allows crawling of data. For instance, WTO can have the API platforms, can have an API solution that helps them to extract data from the database or the websites of member nations to be able to track what information is being posted online on a daily basis, to be able to have information at the tip of the WTO in terms of what is happening at real time. This will be enabled by API. So once you have an API, or you can also maintain an API where member states who want to have access to a certain kind of information in your organization are able to log in through your API and able to extract that information to be able to do their own proper planning. API can also help in demand forecasting. So you see a lot of API crawlers has been developed whereby, for instance, in the airline industry, you have a lot of websites that displays, the flight bookings, flight price and all that. How are they able to get all this data? They get all this data through API crawlers because they extract those data from the websites of, airline organizations. The use of digital twin is also becoming very, very prevalent within supply chains. So everybody now understands that having a virtual supply chain platforms enables your physical supply chain to work efficiently and effectively. So your supply chain is now in an iterative situation whereby data is being captured from the physical and fed into the virtual platform in order to aid real-time understanding. So across the value chain, all the sections or all the segments of the value chain have become data points for data gathering, from inbound logistics to operations to outbound logistics. Most organizations are now capturing data through some of the technologies that we have talked about, and including customer feedbacks. And this is being fed into the virtual supply chain platforms so that organizations are now able to know not just what the customers are saying in terms of service quality and satisfaction, but they are also understanding some of the pain points of the customer and using that information to improve on their service delivery, right? So customers are providing, they have become very unique source of data, and most value chains have developed platforms that enable them to harvest data across all their value chains to be able to leverage all this data together and perform optimization. So another solution that AI has powered and providing a very good use case for artificial intelligence in global supply chain is dynamic rerouting. Dynamic rerouting. Dynamic rerouting is very important when we are facing sudden, unexpected natural disaster or disruption. So many organizations always lose a lot of money when unforeseen events happen suddenly. For instance, maybe heavy rainfall has not been accurately predicted, and all of a sudden there's heavy rainfall, and it also led to, to flooding. Being able to dynamically reroute your fleet has become an important, tool in the hands of a lot of fleet management organizations and supply chain organizations. So AI has been able to enable real-time monitoring because, fleet organizations are able to get dynamic alerts and updates. They are able to get early warning signals that helps them to swiftly adjust their logistics based on the information that they are gathering at real time, right? Disaster prediction, risk assessment has also become, very, very possible and easy with dynamic information and live updates. So many organizations have actually developed mobile applications, dynamic platforms where informations are coming, crowdsource information are coming at real time, coming on the platform, and those information are informing efficient and proper utilization of the fleet and supply chains generally. And the impact of this has been felt, in terms of helping minimize delays, maintaining service levels, reduced fuel cost, and also help maintain, supply chain delivery vehicles. So tracking carbon footprint. One of the most important impact of supply chain, as we mentioned in the early slides, is that supply chain, 90% of carbon emission in most organizations actually happens within their supply chain. And being able to track the carbon footprint of organization has become a very, very important sustainability goal. So not just tackling your scope 1 and scope 2 emission, but also making sure that your scope 3 emission, which is your value chain emission, is brought within the visible sides of organization. So one of the most important things that people do is what we call activity-based CO2 emission tracking and monitoring. Activity-based CO2 emission mapping and tracking. That is, according to the greenhouse gas protocol, for scope 3 carbon tracking, they have different methodologies for helping organizations map their carbon footprints. So how do you know the impact of your operations on the environment? One of it is to identify the key sources of emission within your operations. The key sources of your emission within your operations will be your emission hotspots. What kind of activity is this? How much of that activity will your organization perform? And what is the carbon factor? So based on economic input and output data, you can compute what is the emission per mile of your fleet. And if it is about activity, you can use emissions per spend. How much are you spending on a particular activity, and what is the associated emission? For instance, what is the emission per spend of our activity on, bringing goods from so destination to another? And we can also calculate it based on emission per mile, using information like, is the type of vehicle, is it an electric vehicle? Is it a diesel vehicle, right? Or is this an hybrid vehicle? And we can use industry averages from the input-output data to compute what the emission per mile or per kilometer of that vehicle will be. So the first area to start is to identify the key activities in your organization. Identify what are the key activities in your organization and processes. Now, what are the activities that are much more carbon intensive? That is also very important to know. So obviously some activities are less carbon intensive as compared to others. And then deploying AI and IoT sensing technologies that can help you collect real-time data. So you can collect data on energy usage, you can collect data on fuel consumption. And when you're able to collect this data, you are able to map your emission to activities. So you're able to have activity-based emission mapping. So how much of this activity happens? What is the carbon factor for this type of activity? And what is, the carbon emission that is likely to come out from this amount of activity? For instance, if emission activity for a day of visiting of an office or a city center is about maybe 10 kilograms of CO2 emission, right? For instance, how much does that translate to over a month, if you're having to go every day? So we can use that information to understand what the impact of our visitation to city center regularly for a month will amount to at the end of the month. So, and when you map your emission to key activities, then you are able to aggregate data across all the sources. You are able to aggregate data across all your processes and operations. When you aggregate this data, then you can analyze results and be able to identify opportunities for reducing your carbon emission. So there you'll be able to analyze and identify your emission-laden activities, your emission-driving activities, activities that are much more carbon intensive as compared to the ones that are low carbon intensive emissions. And what are the enabling technologies that can help us deliver this? Enabling technologies will be, for instance, maybe we are using API crawling. We are crawling data from a particular website or from a particular database. Internet of Things sensors can be another enabling technology that can help us get real-time data. We can also use edge AI, that is AI that is embedded in a hedge, in an IoT gateway. Using cloud technology can also be an enabling technology whereby our emission data is being, tracked at real time and is being uploaded on the cloud. Graphics processing units, maintaining a GPU for our storage and, fast processing. AI algorithms and models that we can use to analyze our data. Smart visualization and interface or dashboard, intuitive dashboards can also help provide real-time visualization of our CO2 emission based on our operation as at when we need the information. It can project as we're getting the data at real time. It can project the details on our visualization dashboard, and we can see what level of emission is attributed to what particular activity within our operations. So this application has become the mainstay in many supply chains as a result of government's increasing focus on scope 3 emission, that is the value chain emission, because most organizations have an opportunity to reduce their carbon emission drastically if they focus so much on the value chain emission, because only 10% of emission is coming from organizations' own energy usage and own organizations' own activities. Do we always have a break? So I wouldn't mind if people want to have a break of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think we should have 5 minutes to just move around before some of us will slip off on duty.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
so I'll be back by 11:25. Yes. All right, thanks.
So we can come back with questions and so.
Yeah, hello. I'm back.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, can we move on, please?
Yeah, I don't know how many colleagues are back, but
Okay.
we should move.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. So, the next practical exercise that I want to talk about is the Scout B innovation, demonstrating the power of AI for improving supply chain resilience. And one of the most important, particularly in retail industry, one of the most important competitive advantage is for you to be able to identify supply chains and identify them as quickly as possible. According to Maggie Bromer, who happens to be the head of procurement for Unilever, he was of the view that the key to being competitive, is to be faster at finding alternative suppliers than everyone else because everyone is looking to do the same thing. So finding an alternative supplier when you have suddenly have a supply chain disruptions is what many organizations encounter as a challenge. So Scout B is an innovative AI organization that has developed a platform that helps organizations to quickly identify suppliers using artificial intelligence. And they are able to use a lot of data, particularly, company profile, organizational directory, location, the type of service or operations you perform, the size of the firm, the turnover, you know, other data like the level of compliance of your organizations to environmental sustainability and ESG, whether there is strategic alignment between your organization and the organization they are trying to identify you for, your past experience in this type of operation or solution that you are being needed for, your success so far in that area. All these data can be combined to be able to automatically and quickly match organizations to certain specific search criteria. And this is very possible using artificial intelligence, particularly when you're talking about collaborative filtering. So, collaborative filtering allows machine learning models to be able to automatically search your organization based on how you match certain specific criteria. And organizations are using these to be able to limit the impact of supply chain disruptions and no-show suppliers to be able to respond and meet their operational demands. And this is something that should be considered in most business environment. Now, let us look at some of the most common challenges that organizations often face when they are trying to adopt AI for improving their sustainability and their readiness to meet on unexpected challenges. One of the most important thing is data quality and availability. There has to be an incentive to collect quality data because a model prediction is as good as the quality and the representativeness of the data. So the data has to be available. Organizations need to build a culture that allows uh, quality data sharing and common data platforms where organizations can easily access certain data that might not be restricted within their departments. For instance, you can have a common data platform where um, departments or divisions dealing with trade laws can have access to data from department dealing with uh, challenges or country risk analysis and stuffs and what have you. So being able to have quality data is very, very important. And most of the time, organizations always have this problem of having access to quality data. And not having quality data can happen as a result of either inaccurate storage of the data, the data has not been captured properly, or limited information has been stored,
or the data is not being stored in a way that it can make meaningful, it can allow for meaningful insights to be gained from it. So organizations face this type of challenges, and we need to look at how we can ensure that the data we have developed a protocol that enables the collection of accurate data, and that data is available for effective utilization. Another challenge for being able to use AI effectively is the high implementation cost, but AI is becoming very easy and cheap to use now because of the availability of a lot of open source platforms and ability to upskill yourself and upskill the workforce with open source training. And the cost of implementing AI will be particularly about the storage and the skill that is needed to be able to perform AI operations. The data storage, for instance, the access to being able to procure GPU. Obviously, WTO is not such organization. So WTO has enough resources to be able to deploy, and I'm sure is already deploying AI solutions in many spheres. Now, being able to use AI has also been very much simplified, particularly with the cloud organizations who are like the AWS. Most of the machine learning and AI operations that we need to do can be performed on the cloud. When you subscribe to certain compute, you can perform all your operations on the cloud, and you can scale as you will. The lack of expertise is what many organizations also have a problem coping with, because this is a skill that is very much in demand in the market. Therefore, the going rate for an average machine learning engineer or AI engineer might actually be out of the reach of small and medium-sized firms. But multinational firms obviously have the financial war chest to be able to do that. But being able to have the right skill in-house is very, very important for being able to extract value and understand what type of value that can be extracted from our data. One of the most important things for organizations to do is to quickly come up with what their objectives are. For instance, if one of the most important objectives for your organization is how to have a dispute resolution within a range of time, then it is possible to use AI to be able to identify trade contracts or trade laws or trade disputes that could, issues that could amount to trade dispute, and being able to predict them early on and actively getting engaged to be able to minimize such dispute or avoid such dispute will be a very useful application of AI within the WTO. Integrating artificial intelligence with existing systems can also be very, very it can be a very big barrier. One of the most important things that some organizations, particularly in sectors like construction, engineering services, and all that, have faced is the fact that organizations have legacy systems, and most of these systems are siloed, they are not connected. And as a result of that, being able to leverage artificial intelligence is very much limited because data will be incomplete. So organizations, what most firms are now doing is to migrate to a common data platform that will allow effective use of AI and query from data. Being able to integrate existing systems with new technological solutions will enable effective use of artificial intelligence. Privacy concerns and data security is also another challenge that that has really hindered many organizations from adopting artificial intelligence. Being falling foul of GDPR and other data privacy laws across multiple countries can actually be a big issue. So the question is, how do we know what a particular country's law says about data collection, and when do we fall foul of that law? Might be a skill or competence that might be built in-house within the WTO. to try and predict the potential for data privacy breach and data security breach based on member states' domestic laws, and coming up with standard practice in terms of how to ensure data privacy in-house and comply with laws will be very, very important. And AI can play a very significant role in this. Scalability issues, being able to scale up your operations from where you are currently and to a new horizon where you are processing significant volume of data can be a barrier for small and medium scale businesses, but it wouldn't be a barrier, if I may say that, to a multilateral organization like the WTO. So you will be able to scale based on the level of operations that you think you need to perform with artificial intelligence, and platforms are already existing that allows you to scale easily. The Microsoft Cloud, Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services. These are cloud platforms that have compute services that allows scalability at ease. The fact that many organizations also don't know what benefits they might get from artificial intelligence. What is the return on investment? So in monetary terms, how do I know if this so-called AI is delivering value for me? That can actually be a significant barrier to organizations being able to adopt artificial intelligence. Naturally, when you're bringing a new technology to a new environment, it challenges not only the organizational culture, but also challenges power dynamics within the organization. For instance, imagine where an organization that has been used to traditionally managing its operations using enterprise solution that has been mastered by a lot of staffs suddenly start prioritizing artificial intelligence, the use of AI tools and all that. It might actually need new hands or new staff, new personnel to be able to deliver this change. This change will change the power dynamics because the organization is no longer interested in the old ways of doing things. It's now looking towards the new ways of doing things. And these new ways of doing things will actually require new personnel. So this causes power imbalance. This can erode power. This can cause friction and conflict within organizations, and therefore leading to change resistance or innovation-induced resistance, so to say. So what organizations have been doing is to manage such change, identify what skills may be needed in terms of the use of artificial intelligence, and coming up with an organizational level AI maturity model that delineates AI skills according to what level of skill you should be. What is level 1 organizational maturity for AI? If level 1 is you being able to identify data sources, you being able to use Excel sheets, you being able to understand what data might be relevant for developing what solution, you can have such benchmarking model in-house to be able to say staffs who don't have IT skills prior to now can begin to gradually upskill themselves from level 1, move to level 2, where they are able to register for Python training courses, learning how to develop a simple project, learning how to extract data using SQL and all that, from level 2 to level 3 to level 4 to level 5. So that would ensure that the process of change will be easy and is going to be participatory, where employees are also able to contribute in terms of how do we take on this technology. Ethical bias and fairness concerns have to be thought through. It has to be effectively thought through. AI has its own black box, has its own blind spots, and human organizations must be able to know what are the blind spots. When do we know when we are already coming in conflict with bias or fairness? And we need to be able to have a broad discussion and a broad framework around that, because bias and fairness are subjective, they are social norms, and they are not perceived in the same way. So also are the principles of guiding against bias and fairness in AI. So, for instance, someone from ethnic minority might be more interested in ethical principles that talks about fairness, diversity, while someone from, for instance, a Caucasian background might be interested in transparency, accountability in the AI model. So we don't often want the same thing, but in an organization, it's about how do we ensure that all the most important ethical principles have been factored in not only how we gather data, the type of data we gather, the kind of information we are sourcing, ensuring the anonymity of the data identifiers, and making sure that we are using the AI solutions in an ethical way that is not infringing on the rights or privileges of a particular group of people. This will require an in-house ethical framework to underpin your use of AI within the WTO, in my view. And another thing, another barrier challenge for many organizations is regulatory compliance challenges. So there's an increase in laws that are regulating the use of AI now, because AI is having a far-reaching impact in not just our day-to-day lives, in trading, in e-commerce. For instance, through artificial intelligence, you can studies have been done on how you can study people's behavior to manipulate them to be able to make sales on e-commerce platform using false rating. So using false rating, particularly on platforms where you're asking customers to recommend, using social influence theory, you already know that if Professor Iwendi likes something and Professor Hike likes something, therefore Professor Hakeem has to like it. So it is easy to fake the rating of Professor Celestine and fake the rating of Professor Hike to be able to influence Professor Hakeem. Because I would say, if he is right, if he is happy about it, and this is happy about it, then I am happy about it. And this experiment has been conducted within the e-commerce platform. These are new challenges that WTO will have to grapple with in terms of robust regulatory framework for digital business e-commerce platforms, because e-commerce platforms transcend nations now. Customers all the way from Africa can order something from China. So the question is, how do we put laws in place to make sure that those type of transactions are governed effectively using all the technologies that we know, particularly the artificial intelligence. So this last survey, apologies, I have to apologize again. We are using this lecture to, as much as possible, extract your feedbacks and your views so that we can also look at we can understand what you think about issues, and we can use that to make informed decision on our side. So this last survey is this last survey, I'm going to go back to the QR code very soon, is trying to look at what you consider as the most significant barrier to your ability to use AI in your day-to-day work at WTO. What would you, based on your experience, based on your years on your job role, what would you consider as the biggest challenge for you in terms of being able to use artificial intelligence? And this is the QR code. If you don't mind, you want to scan it. And after our poll, we are wrapping up the presentation with the recommendation, best practice, and conclusion slide. Confidentiality of the work is an important but significant barrier that on the market AI software is not as secure as I would like to use confidential internal data. That's a good one. How to secure large amounts of WTO data. Privacy concerns. Quality of data. Ensuring supervised AI. Technical skills to operationalize the theory. Is that all? I think we need more. We have 16 participants. And we have maybe 2 more. Confidentiality. Data are beginning to be integrated, but are still spread across many databases, data existing in silos. Okay. Yeah, without wasting much of our time, I would wrap up on the best practices and recommendations. What are the best practices and recommendations? If we want to integrate AI, we want to use AI to improve sustainability and resilience in our operations. Data transparency and effective management of data is very important. Having common data platforms where staffs can, have access to data that has been, database that has been designed in a way that, is capturing accurate data. Having collaborative and sharing culture within the organization. Data sharing culture, collaborative culture would ensure that data across multiple departments and divisions have a way of being accessible to everybody, maybe based on certain clearance level within the organization. Best practice is also environmental impact monitoring as a supply chain, as an organization that facilitates trades, that regulates trade. You want to continue to be at the forefront of looking at the environmental impact of businesses and trade within your member states, domestic and international trade environments. So optimizing inventory and predicting demand will be a best practice use of artificial intelligence. And recommendations for overcoming challenges: we need to improve quality of our data, we need to increase data gathering culture, we need to make data accessible. High cost of implementation can be minimized by using open source solutions, but open source solutions have its own shortcomings in terms of being exposed to cyber attacks and malwares. Being able to integrate our existing solutions and data storage to new AI-driven platforms will be very key for us. Some organizations might need to map the data from their existing legacy systems to be able to make AI extract meaningful insights from them, ensuring that we have frameworks and best practices in place to reduce data breach, improve security of our data, being able to scale our AI solutions, and encouraging digital culture within the organization. Everybody doesn't have to be a machine learning expert. Everybody doesn't have to be a software developer, but everybody has to know at the basic level what AI solutions or technological solutions can do, and what problems it can solve within the organizations. And then you can engage, subject matter experts who have the right skills to do what you want, but you have an idea of where you want to get to and the solutions that you're trying to create. In conclusion, AI is very vital for sustainability, for data tracking, for providing visibility. It helps data-driven solutions. It helps us to understand where we're doing well, or where we are having shortcomings, and things that we can do to improve. Evidence-based decision-making is being facilitated by AI, and AI helps us to gain massive insights from all the data and the data and the interactions we have on a daily basis as an organization. There are massive insights that can be extracted from there. Many organizations now have AI listening tools where most of the meetings that they attend online virtually, AI listens to everybody, documents the conversation that everybody has said, and extract the most important information from the meetings. These are things that we can begin to create a culture where staffs are much more disposed, encouraged to embed technologies like AI in their day-to-day activities, pick up basic level, foundational level of data analysis, and abstract level knowledge of artificial intelligence and other associated technologies. So while there's a growing adoption of AI by businesses, the focus needs to be on the practice of data, transparency, collective effort in overcoming the challenges, and encourage continuous learning and engagement with AI-driven innovations. I hope I have been able to say things that you might be able to pick out one or two things that make sense. I apologize for any mistake I may have made in the lecture, and I'm very pleased to have been given the opportunity to speak to you guys about what I've been doing in digital supply chain field. Thank you very much. Any question, please? Okay. Yes.
Sorry, if you don't mind, let me ask a question now because I may have to step out quickly. Thank you very much. Yes, whatever mistakes you made, I didn't pick them up because I was very interested in, I think most of us, I would say, really were very interested in what you had to say and the delivery. Well done. Thank you very much. The many things you referred to during this lecture, I think are very, very useful for us potentially at the WTO, from things to do with the need to reduce carbon footprint of not just of WTO, because we are quite small. I think we are not net big footprint identified footprints in carbon terms. But I think it's an issue of interest to us because we engage with our members on the element of climate change and trade, because that's quite important. I think you referred to shipping, referred to the logistics, delivery of goods across many jurisdictions. So all of these things are of great interest, and thank you for the examples from Nike to some of the others. Two things I'm interested in following up on. One of them is, well, let me just put it broadly, that what you've described is very good. We are looking to see how, on a practical level, my colleagues here, all of us, I'm an economist, and a lot of what you are saying, quite familiar from my econometrics background. So it's very useful in terms of the modeling, predictive and diagnostic, predictive and prescriptive. All of those things are very useful. What I would recommend or suggest at some point is for a kind of practical hands-on approach that people can use to test what is available on the market and to see whether it sort of gives it answers some of the challenges we face on a day-to-day basis in our day-to-day work. The related question to that is whether the skills, such as Python, which you referred to, would that be a necessary, a prerequisite, if you like, for people to have that background, to know how it works in order to deploy it? Or do we have what I can call bespoke packages that are there, like the old, I don't know, TSP and the Starter and so on that have come after that, where people can go to and indicate what they are trying to do and analyze and predict and allow you to give them the sort of results. I will have many other little questions, but I'll stop there because I believe that the lecture is very rich. When some of us have time, we'll go back to listen to the points that you raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Albright. So in terms of the skill, whether you need to go and learn Python, at your level, I don't know. I would say that you should be looking at this skill from a much more strategic level, but at an operational level, you might need to want to have staff to have that basic skill of Python. And it's just for, data exploration. Basic training on Python will open up colleagues' eyes to how do you, filter out the highest frequency data. How do you visualize data? How do you query data at a basic level? Existing solutions that are a little bit much more relatable in terms of statistical packages that you might think of will be something like Orange. So Orange is another tool, is another statistical tool that can help you, has reduced the type of operations that you need to perform when you are trying to use machine learning. So more importantly, because Orange has embedded models in it, and you're just able to load your data in and you're able to pick out the graphs and the operations that you want to perform. So it helps with a drag and drop kind of machine learning modeling and data exploration. That is much more relatable as compared to, for instance, if you're using frameworks like Jupyter Notebooks, like Anaconda, Google Collaborate, and some of these frameworks that are being used for machine learning. But if you are able to put staffs on just a 3-month training, Udacity course training on Python programming, that could also be very good, because then on such courses, they'll be able to, understand data types and operations, and, how do you develop an API? How do you query data? And, the different, how do you define a formula or a model within a particular data that you might have? So check out Orange. Orange is a tool that is simpler than all these other platforms that I've mentioned, but knowing how to use basic data exploration, do data exploration analytics on things like Jupyter Notebook, Anaconda, and the rest might be a skill. Everybody would like to have that, but it would require you to learn a bit of machine learning. Learn a bit of machine learning. But if you're able to learn it at a basic level, then that's absolutely fine. In terms of practicality of what we have talked about, I am sure that Dr. Iwendi will continue to engage with you. What is key for us in that area is to understand your operational problem. When we know the problem that you're facing, then we'll be able to conceive the problem. Problem definition is one of the best ways to start looking at how to deploy AI. When we understand the problem and we accurately define the problem, and that problem is tailored to one of the key objectives of your organization, then okay, we know that this is the problem you're facing. For instance, if it's about dispute resolution, then we can then sit down. What is it about dispute resolution that you want to solve as a problem? What do you have challenges with? Then we can then sit down. How can we use, for instance, natural language processing to be able to help you quickly query trade contracts, or trade laws, and be able to filter out what could be the most controversial clauses or dispute-prone clauses within such laws or contracts. Then that will be operationally useful for you. Then we can then develop an in-house bespoke solution, and underpinned by artificial intelligence that will then give you a new capability. So it means that in-house, you now have a solution that can quickly query and filter out dispute-prone clauses that can help you quickly prepare for meetings when you have to talk about things in the meetings, or when you're going for negotiations, or you're going for trade dispute meetings, or whatever that might involve. So knowing the problem that the organization go through helps us to define how best to tailor artificial intelligence. And it might not act alone. It might work with other associated technologies like software development. If we need to deploy IoT sensing, or if we need to use API crawler, all the problems will be conceived together. So for every problem, there are associated technologies that can enable an effective solution. So, but at a basic level, learning about Python wouldn't be a bad idea if you want to pick it up. But if you want to learn a little bit about how to use Orange is more like a low code statistical tool that you only need to do some drag and drop, and it's going to help you analyze your data and filter out, get insight into your data. And it's also going to provide visualizations like a typical machine learning AI framework will do. I don't know if that responds to your question. Sorry, you are mute, sir.
I say thank you very much. That's fine for now. I'll let others, in the interest of time, maybe come in. But I'll have other issues to raise later. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, sir. Any other question? Any other question?
Thank you, Professor Hakeem, for this lecture. Just like we have been telling them, we have so many numerous problems, numerous challenges with WTO that we are looking at different areas. And we have also suggested that as we go forward, that what we have given is a kind of general background of what AI can do and what tools are there. But if we become very specific, we have to look at each of the department, each of them, and then being able, just as you have explained, to analyze what, because the goal is to build their own system, not just teaming up. That's why I was looking at teaming up with the one in terms of, you see, most of the issues is confidentiality.
Yeah.
So that the data will not be out there and creating problem, So everything is planned to be in-house, but we need to know what is the problem, because AI is what you put in, is what comes out. So it's much easier for us to understand where the problems are. And then, so that's how we'll be talking to each department and building things with them also. Yeah. So it's quite noted. And I think Dr. Bright understands that, so we'll move it forward later on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sorry, may I just add one thing for Prof. Hakeem to please keep in mind. The point you raised about the use of API, I think that's potentially quite interesting for us, because members submit data to us on a whole series of things, including trade restriction measures and trade promoting measures that they introduce. And this is usually very useful. You said that with this instrument or platform, it is possible to directly extract data from some of our members' websites, if I got you correctly.
Yes.
So I think to keep that as part of what you might want to bear in mind, including, of course, how best to serve our members, because that's one of the functions that the Secretariat is meant to perform. How best to provide data and let them know that data is already there, they are aware, for them to easily access and possibly extract such data by themselves or for themselves. And it will reduce, I think, a lot of the, shall I say, things that, friction and things of that type. It's just a thought. That struck me as part in one of your delivery points as an important element.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bright.
Thank you. Yeah.
Myself and Dr. Professor Wendy will be talking about that on the back end. Yeah, but obviously API crawler will be can help you. You can easily, have a common data platform and, extract data. You need to get access. Your member states have to sign up that they give you access to their platforms, and through that API, you're able to crawl data directly, or both of you can have a common data environment where you request certain data from them on a periodic basis, and they update if they are worried about the breach into their own systems, because if they don't update their their open source websites, then it means that you want to be having access into their platforms, which might be a worry for them in terms of malware or cyber attacks and stuff like that. So in order to be able to circumvent that barrier is to have a common data platform where both WTO and these member states can have an account on those, on that common data platform. And then you can use that platform to be able to request data directly from them. And then you can also have access to those data and provide them data on that common data platform as well.
If I may jump in, yes, if I may jump in on this, just to flag that there is a 2019 decision on the integrated database at the WTO that forces automatic exchange of data with our members. And this is something that we've been trying to push, but for the time being, there are just like 2 or 3 members who have accepted to automatically share their data with us. I think many of them are reluctant to go this way and to put in place this automatic exchange of data for reasons we don't necessarily fully understand, but they want to be able to control the data that we get. And so it has been very, very difficult to convince them to put in place this automatic exchange of data. But the structure is there. We could do it if members are willing to put that in place.
Okay. Thank you very much, Emanuela. I think what you might consider, that's normal. That's normal. This is something similar to what is being experienced in the UK construction industry, where organizations feel that if they declare their carbon footprint, it might actually affect their reputation. So as a result of that, they are a little bit protective of their data. They don't want to expose themselves as being an highly polluting organization and stuff like that. But what has been done, particularly by Carbon Disclosure Project, I don't know if you're familiar with CDP. So Carbon Disclosure Project is a global sustainability platforms that has used the power of incentivization. So if you're able to incentivize member states, right, to be able to voluntarily disclose their data, then that could be another way of, sidestepping that problem. What do I mean by incentivization is you need to understand what global thing that member states want to be associated with and they want to be known for. For instance, when you talk in terms of sustainability, most organizations want to be identified as being, being sustainable, doing well in terms of sustainability. And CDP has been able to leverage that to help organizations use results from their platform to showcase their sustainability performance. Am I making any sense? So it now means that organizations that are disclosing their carbon footprint on CDP platforms are able to claim to be doing well in terms of sustainability. So through that, there is more voluntary disclosure of the ESG or the carbon footprint of organizations to CDP. So this is published globally all the time. And everybody know organizations that are declaring their data on CDP, and that gives them some level of reputational benefits and ratings. So if you want to create a system that allows member states to feel like they are part of something good and laudable by disclosing their data voluntarily, you are more likely to get them to be able to do that. So, and it's not something that is going to happen overnight. It's something that might take you a couple of years to get there. But the few ones who share with you, you have to be able to run with it with a lot of publicity, aligning that to some very important global values like, being resilient, being sustainable, being open and friendly, ease of doing business and stuff like that. And you give them adequate recognition on the basis of that. You will gradually see a shift from member states towards wanting to be recognized as being part of that new trend. Yeah, and then you would see the criteria for being recognized is your ability to voluntarily disclose your data at a certain time, and then you do the rest from your side. I don't know if that helps or if that sounds a little bit difficult to do. And there could be other innovative ways of addressing this problem. I throw it open to Professor Iwendi and Dr. Celestine.
Dotike, can you unmute yourself? Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you so
because
much.
I know this part of the talk is going to be next week on, and it's going to be very heavy.
Yes, yeah. I can see you. He's just he started the conversation already. Thank you so much, Professor Hakeem. Yes, on as to the question of data, it's not just an ownership issue. It's not just a privacy issue. It's also a national security issue for most member states. So the challenge really is huge in terms of allowing the free sharing of data. Ideas around data crawling using the API is one very good one, but the challenges are there in terms of the fact that member nations also have their own domestic commitments to data and the difficulties that sit within data protecting their national security and their economic, political, and cultural interests. These are huge considerations that must play in the area of data. For instance, if you have a member nation, maybe within the EU, there are strong commitments with regards to privacy within the EU system. So if you intend to carry out such within the environment of any EU member state, you might run foul of certain provisions of GDPR. That challenge is there. Then again, looking at it from the point of view of how then should we engage this? I think you rightly mentioned the fact of having sort of a data arrangement with member nations. We have one data sort of arrangement currently with the G7 countries coming together to provide a framework for data sharing. Very few countries are currently within that system. In our discussions next week, we're going to share some of the innovations that are coming within the context of data protection authorities that have been set up in different countries. And you now have systems of data protection authorities coming together to have some form of standard and procedure for data sharing, not free-flowing data, but data with respect to certain questions. We want to see that the WTO is able to have those sort of arrangements with its member nations so that those data authorities can have some form of arrangements that will allow for flow of data on certain areas. We will dig deep into that next week when we explore these questions within the context of privacy and data protection. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Hakeem, again. That was a very lovely one. See, we have been putting everything together coming from different areas of what AI can do. Like I keep saying, this is massive. It's massive. We have said 12 weeks, but it's a whole lot. I know that when we started. So if we keep expanding it, we will not finish. But let's see how next week will be. And then thank you everyone again. And then let's see next week. But please, the case studies, people should start working on the case studies now. And then I would try to like add some colleagues, to most of the case studies to, just put up your meeting time and then give you people that will assist you in using most of the Python, to analyze your cases. The hands-on, as mentioned by Dr. Bright, will come in later from those case studies. We are there to make sure you use all these things we have said to answer your questions so that you can prepare for the presentations. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank